Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Fitz Health Conscious Corner. My name is Emma, and I am your show host. And this morning, we are getting back to our programming for this week. Thank you all so much for rolling through the punches with me this week. It's been a tough week, but we're here. We're all pumped, ready to go. I brought my happy cup since we're talking about emotional endurance. Happiness includes, it being an emotion. So let's give a few moments here for everyone to log in, and then we'll get started. So for those of you that may be joining in for the first time, or maybe you have been catching up on the show through our YouTube channel at Fitz Health Conscious Corner, we have been talking about endurance as a superpower. So Fitz Health Conscious Corner is a show that we host. We meet every week. We aim to meet every Wednesday, but sometimes we have to readjust and move the date of the show. So, that happened this week. So usually we're Wednesday, today we're Saturday. So we are meeting every week, and we're talking about all branches of life's universal knowledge. So each week we are focusing on a topic relating to life and how it relates to health conscious living. So I share with you my experiences, and I also speak to you with practical knowledge through certified knowledge. So I am a multifaceted wellness coach, and I have a combined approach in how I approach wellness, and that's what I hope to do here on the show each week, is bring you a topic, discussion, leave the floor open for us to connect and explore and expand thoughts and strategies and perspective, relate to each other, and build this community and keep growing in character and equipping our toolboxes for life. So with strategies, insights, and tools to help us navigate life. So just gonna give us all about one more minute, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm really happy to be here with you all this morning. So thank you so much for sharing some of your time with me today and the Fitz Health Conscious Corner community. It's really exciting. We're already at week 5. So it's incredible, and it really speaks to endurance as well, just continuing to keep going despite, scheduling conflicts or life's unexpected that shows up. And whether that's for me as the host or for you as community tuning in, please feel free to explore the YouTube channel and to catch up, and that's why we have it recorded so you can all go back to. So good mornings, Afia and Deborah, welcome to the show. So let's get started, and everyone else can continue to log in, and we'll keep moving. All right. So welcome to this episode number 5, emotional endurance. So a quality that is needed to persist through life. So let's recap. What does it mean to endure? Well, endurance means to continue on despite feeling fatigue, despite feeling the feelings of not wanting to do it, despite obstacles that show up. So to continue to press on and push forward despite resistance. And the fatigue, the exhaustion. And we're talking about how it relates on 4 aspects. So mental endurance, physical endurance, spiritual endurance, and emotional endurance. So we've explored what endurance means, to go through, to use it as a tool maneuver through life. And endurance is it's a lasting quality. So it's a quality that we all have access to, we all possess it, and it's something that we can train to help us navigate life's adverse conditions. So when we talk about endurance, we're usually being pushed to our edge, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and it's that ability to expand threshold, which is what it means to endure. And so when we break it down today, talking about emotional endurance and what that means, it means to have some emotional obstacles. So feelings where there's heavy emotions, and you're navigating those heavy emotions to be able to last through the situation you're in or to get where you're going. When I say emotions, or emotional endurance, feel free to put in the chat what emotions come to mind. So it could be heavy emotions, happy emotions, easy emotions. What comes to mind when you just hear the word emotion? Feel free to put it in the chat. And maybe I'll go first. So some emotions that we might experience, heavy emotions, I can maybe off the top of my head, confusion, grief, loss, fear, rejection, feeling demotivated, feeling numb, maybe feelings of disgust or inadequacy, anger, resentment, feeling mad, rage, overwhelmed. These are some things that come to mind when I think about heavy emotions and what emotions come up that are difficult to navigate. And when we're able to navigate them, we increase that endurance threshold. So our capacity, our tolerance to observe and to be present with emotion and navigate it. So anyone else have any emotions that come to mind? So let's talk about what situations we might, overwhelmed. And I think also during this time, stress, that's the big one, right? Because all of these emotions, they add up to stress and stress in the body. And that's what we're going to talk about. That's exactly what we're going to talk about and get into. We're talking about, what situations that we encounter or circumstances that cause us to feel these feelings like stress, overwhelm, anger, rejection, disadvantaged. So, when we have to persist through these feelings, persistence is another word for endurance. So persistence means to continue on firmly, right, in your purpose, in your course of action. So that's what, persistence means. It's another word for endurance. It's a lasting quality, right? So how do we persist through emotional endurance? What are these situations that might come up? Feel free, put it in the chat. What comes to mind? What are situations we might face when we're feeling heavy emotions? Some that might be just named. I can, off the top of my head, one really big one that comes to mind is grief, right? Grief can show up in loss of somebody close, or, loss of an individual. It can be loss of a relationship breakdown. So you might experience grief, in loss of relationships. So it could be, a personal relationship. It could be job loss, so like a career relationship. Because if we realize and we really approach life with various perspectives, we can observe that, life happens on many levels, on all levels, right? So when we're experiencing loss, it can be related to personal relationships, it can be job loss, it can be a relationship with yourself. So something that you love or that you're able to do, and now you're experiencing limitation and you can't do it in that way, or maybe at all. So when I think of that, and a big one that I can relate to is illness, right? So there's many people that I coach and that I talk to, regularly, and people dealing with, various conditions, medical conditions. So, dealing with a diagnosis, having to go through tests and appointments, and, dealing with heavy emotions, confusion, loss, struggling with relationships. So, having a big diagnosis, there might be relationship aspects that are become maybe burdened, or we struggle with because there's confusion or maybe abandonment, helplessness, absolutely helplessness. And we can feel helpless on so many levels. And when we feel helpless, what do we feel? We feel like powerless, that we just don't have the power or control over situations or emotions, or sometimes our responses, they become reactions. So those are also some things that, we're going to explore a little bit deeper. There's fear, right? Fear of leaving a job, fear of leaving a relationship, fear of starting something new. Maybe some people we're getting into September, starting something new, like going back to school, or starting a new school, starting a different level of education. These are situations and circumstances where we might feel fear. We might feel fear for ourselves. We can also feel fear for others. So emotional wellness doesn't always mean that we're just dealing with our own emotions. Emotions have ways of transferring. So we can be enduring emotions for others, that is another aspect of emotional endurance. So, there can be, spiritual relationship change. And we're going to get into that in the next episode when we're talking about spiritual endurance. But this is, as we dive deeper and break down these aspects of endurance, we're seeing how all of these aspects of endurance relate to endurance as a whole, and how you show up, how you persist, how you endure. It's mental, it's physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, right? So this is why we're breaking it down in the way that we are, is because I want to make sure as a community that we are getting the best understanding around concepts and principles that can help us to get through some of life's adversities, and do it in a health conscious way. We're going to get into shortly, negative ways that, negative impacts of, heavy emotions, and how it can lead to negative circumstances, and also how we can change it to bring it into a positive light, positive circumstances. So, from a shared experience, right? Emotionally, this week it's just been tough. I had my dad in the hospital. I've had to show up in different aspects of my life, rehab, coaching my U11, U12 girls soccer team. We've been wrapping up the season, and just, showing up for them. They also help me push through, and, there's aspects where we are just having to show up and manage our own emotions, and manage our own schedules and physical endurance, and make everything work. So, I'm really happy that we're here this morning, and we're able to still connect and keep this community going the way that we have been. Thank you all for being here. But, just getting back to that emotional endurance, in the past, so beyond last week, there's many situations that I've had to deal with really heavy emotions. So, experiencing confusion, loss, doubt, fear, hopelessness, the overwhelm, the stress. So I could say, in illness, absolutely, right? It affects, job, it affects relationships, it affects goals that I have set for myself, reinventing myself. I've been through sometimes truly like in illness where I felt very lonely, very rejected, very disadvantaged, whether it's from not having treatment and being forced to carry on this course of rehab that I've created for myself through a holistic approach, and being able to push myself on, all levels that we're talking about. And, times that I've been in the hospital, right? And like, it's not convenient, right? Like support's not convenient for, maybe social circles, friends, for agendas, for just like, things that I used to be able to do that I don't do now, right? So like some things might not benefit, lifestyles might not benefit people that we used to have close relationships with, whether it's social, personal, romantic, whatever it is. Like we go through changes in our lives and it does affect different relationships. And often that has an impact when we go through something emotional. It has an impact on our mental wellness, our emotional wellness. And, like I felt disadvantaged at many times, experiencing prejudice, ableism. There's been a lot of things that I'll talk about later on as we go through different episodes and topics. But, I've had to really endure and go through these things. And it doesn't mean that when I was going through it, that I was dealing with it all in a positive way. I had to actually go through a lot of like negative impacts to be able to understand how it was negatively impacting me, so that I could show up in and change it to make it a positive way to endure positively and have positive coping strategies and mechanisms, so let's talk about that, right? How does emotional struggle translate into our bodies and into our everyday life? Well, a few things, right? Anxiety, depression, that can lead to, we can experience that emotionally, mentally, and then that impact has an impact on us physically, right? So it can lead to suppressed tension in the body when we're numbing ourselves and not dealing with heavy emotions, heavy circumstances, having heavy conversations, exploring ourselves and taking the time to actually understand what's happening and, deal with the situation head on, right? What other ways does, heavy emotions impact us? It can impact mood, right? Low energy. It can affect how you show up to your day, how you create goals, how you visualize, so what you see for yourself. Sometimes when we go through heavy emotions, we lose sight of what's in front of us. We lose sight of the things that we're working on. We lose sight of what's important, right? So I would say that, emotional struggle affects vision, it affects mood, it affects mental wellness, emotional blocking, right? Like, so that numbness, right? Avoiding heavy emotions, not accepting responsibility in how we regulate emotion and how we process it. And, that can lead to emotional dysregulation, right? So let's shift over, right, into negative impacts. So a little bit, let's dive a little deeper, right? Negative impacts, what does that lead to? Anybody feel free, put it in the chat, what kind of negative impacts does unhealthy emotional management have on the body or mind? Anyone, feel free. Put it in the chat. So I'll just, I'll expand on numbness. So numbness, it can, heavy, low emotion, low energy. Low energy. Absolutely. So you feel this low energy. So, you feel numb. You feel unable to connect the dots, right? Exhaustion. You're just fatigued. Like, sometimes even just thinking about dealing with something heavy gets you exhausted, demotivated right there. So what does that lead to, right? Like, what are negative ways that we cope and manage heavy emotions? Not motivated. Absolutely. These are really good. And so some of these things can lead to projection. We're transferring heavy emotions on others. We're blaming others. We are raging. It's displaced emotion, right? So we're angry. We're self-sabotaging, right? Like, when we're not dealing with emotions in a healthy way, we can self-sabotage ourselves, whether it's blocking relationship growth, whether it's career, personal, social, blocking opportunities, emotional disconnection, right? We're just disconnecting from feeling emotion. So you're numb, you're emotionally irritable, emotionally isolated, not wanting to talk to anybody about what you're going through, shutting down, escapism. That's a big one. Diverting the mind to entertainment, distraction, avoiding anything, and avoiding, having important conversations, right? And just diverting, choosing anything over having those conversations. Prolonged emotional stress has an impact on mental wellness because it rewires the brain and even the emotional processing system. And it really has that negative impact because it's this prolonged period. So what you prolong is what you tolerate. It's what you get used to. And low self-esteem. Absolutely. So it can really lead to low self-esteem. It feeds insecurity, right? And what is insecurity? What does that do? It impacts how we see things. It impacts our perspective of ourselves. It impacts our relationships. It affects confidence in what we believe we're able to do. So a lot of the times, like, the mind can trick us into thinking that we're not able to do something because we feel limited by our circumstances or situation or train of thought or past experiences, and thinking that's going to happen the same way. So let's get into, I know we're moving at a good pace, but let's shift on over into some positive strategies and approaches to emotional endurance. One thing off the bat that I would really highlight is not having expectations of others, and being adaptable and adjusting expectation on ourselves. So being open to other circumstances, other opportunities, other ways of getting things done, even if it's not in the way that we planned, the way that we want it to go, the way we see it, being open to change, and not expecting what you would do for others, not expecting that will be done for you. I'm not saying that it won't happen for you. I'm saying that accepting help, no matter where it's coming from. So even if you're accepting help in a place that you don't want to, and it's not from who you want or where you want, the help is there, right? So dropping ego, being willing to accept help, and it's a big thing, right? Because we also, it's a big concept to grasp and a big, application in life, because it's a constant practice. It's natural to have expectations or to want, someone to show up for you or people to show up for you, or do what you would do for others in a tough time. And when we recognize that, other people are, everyone is human. We're all dealing with, life on various aspects, and, timing's not always going to be convenient for others. I've had many summer surgeries, and I'm telling you, that's not a convenient time for your support system or social circle, right? Like I've gone through 3 major surgeries in the summer times, and I've been challenged emotionally a lot, like with personal relationships, social relationships. Like I've been in the hospital, and I've had experiences where, I've had to deal with maybe that rejection or that abandonment because, who I thought would be there for me wasn't there. And, having an illness or condition that doesn't have something to treat it, and, enduring it, I've had circumstances where it's like I've been told, it's like my illness is too crazy. It's to deal with, right? Like, just not convenient, right? And I've had to explore that on different relationship dynamics. And that's been super, super tough, right? So I've had to learn a lot of, strategies to be able to overcome those heavy emotions so that it wasn't blocking me, dealing with, so that it wasn't making having those negative impacts, that I wasn't choosing to deal with those heavy emotions in negative ways. So like I mentioned, I've had to go through numbness, emotional blocking, using that as a coping mechanism just to survive, but then realizing that when it's prolonged and you're dealing with it in survival, learning how to transition out of that mindset into positive strategies and acceptance. That's the another way, another strategy is acceptance, right? Like accept what you can change and accept what you can't change, use what you have, right? Because even in limitation, even in struggle, there's things that we do have, ways that we can continue to show up. So that's very important, is using what you have. You're building on your skills. You're learning about yourself. You're learning about others and the way others deal with heavy emotions. So, like one of the other big things for emotional endurance, I would say, is forgiveness. Sometimes you'll have to accept an apology that was never given. Sometimes you'll have to come to terms with some things that have happened. And a lot of the time, the forgiveness, it's not for the other person, it's actually for you, for your peace of mind, for your understanding. And so that you're not taking that anger, resentment, building it up in your body, and then causing stress and tension in your body, in your muscles, in your tension in your mind, that you're not limiting your other opportunities just because somebody treated you that way that made you feel rejected, made you feel heavy emotions that were tough to process, and you don't want to go through that again. Just understanding that we're human and we are going to experience the array of emotions that we are gifted with, we're equipped with, and that helps us to be human. So that's a big concept, and it's a big principle to practice in everyday life. Just finding ways to let go, to forgive, to establish some boundaries, so that we can, adjust ways that we are tolerating negative relationships, circumstances, or habits, our own habits that can get in the way. So being able to manage emotions is a big thing in emotional endurance. So self-observation, observing your own emotions, what it feels like, acknowledging that you have those emotions, naming the emotions, observing where it's impacting your life. So is it causing burdens on relationships that are important, or is it a signal to you to end and leave a relationship because it's not doing you any good for your well-being? You know, whether it's a job, whether it's a personal relationship. Question in the chat: what would be the strategies to help someone to let go? Yeah, that's a big one. What strategy? Thank you for asking, Afia. That's a big one. So, a few things. I would say, firstly, gratitude. So gratitude for what the person is, what that person or the situation, whatever it is that you're letting go of, gratitude for what it brought to your life, that awareness that, you know, we are growing in struggle, right? So we are growing in no matter, we're not only growing in struggle, but in times of struggle, it's an opportunity to look at it as growth. So, you know, when we have gratitude, we're emitting peace in the body. It doesn't always mean that we're welcoming that situation or circumstance or person back into your life and, you know, the accessibility to you, but it just means that you are grateful for what's building you and changing perspective. I would say self-discipline as well. So sticking to your word when you commit to letting go, you know, sticking to it. So there's going to be times that in the mind, it's going to remind you of things. Sometimes we're going to feel like nostalgia. We're going to feel like, you know, you want to go back to that place of comfort, security, familiarity. So just, I would say a big way is changing your routine. So things that you, environmental, also changing your thoughts. So when you're recognizing those continuous thoughts that are coming up, reminding you, having, you know, affirmations in place or perspective in place, even writing it down to help you go back to that. So you remember, like, that was the old way that you're looking at it. That's causing these emotions, this stress. How can I look at it in a way that's positive, optimistic, and it helps me feel like it's growth, not breaking me. So I would say, like, perspective is huge in shifting focus, you know, accepting that there's going to be times where you feel lonely, you feel that absence, you feel, the familiarity of wanting to go back. So when you remind yourself and you keep sticking to your word and your plan, your course of action to persist in purpose, when you start doing that, it becomes habit. So you're actually training yourself in new ways, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And what we train ourselves to continually do is what's going to show up, right? That's what's going to stick. And we know that whether it's a negative habit or a positive habit, what we continually do is the tone that we set for our lives. It's the tone that we set for what we tolerate. And it's what we will choose to endure. So are we going to continue to last in a way that's building us, or are we going to continue to attempt to last and just continue to be broken down and feel like you're suffering and drowning in the fatigue, the exhaustion, the doubts, the resistance? So I would say, you know, that feeling of security is important. When we feel heavy emotions or betrayal, loss, you know, circumstance, prejudiced against, it sometimes can make you question who you are. So security in telling yourself, your confidence in who you are, knowing yourself, taking time for solitude, for rest, for self-evaluation. These things also help you to build your confidence because you're getting to know yourself better. And in life, we do have to be able to be with our own company, because like I was mentioning before, there's going to be times, right, we won't know when or how, but there's times you're going to be like on your own, having to manage situations and emotions that's not going to be convenient for others. So learning how to know yourself, setting yourself up with these strategies, these concepts to come back to relearn in these times of struggle and difficulty is very, very important, and really helps with letting go and reframing the mind and emotionally persisting. I hope that helps and answers your question there. Anything else? I would also say, circling back to adaptability. So just like being adaptable, right? Like being open to change and being open to having things work out in other ways, even if it doesn't look like what you planned it to look like, how you thought it was going to go, and just trusting yourself that you're going to keep putting, like, this is when you hear people say, I'm doing the work, I'm doing the emotional work, that inner work. This is the inner work. Emotional endurance is another word for another phrase for doing the work. It means to endure those tough emotions, the tiredness, the not wanting to have those conversations or feel those feelings, or, approach that situation or deal with that treatment, that course of rehab. It means to keep going despite all of that, and to use what you have to increase your threshold for what you can tolerate in a positive way, and then reduce, the accessibility, draw those boundaries in those negative circumstances in your life, whether it's your own habits that you're using to contribute to your emotional challenge, whether it's what you take on from others, what you accept, where you're constantly maybe looking for support in the wrong places and not accepting help in the places that are there for you, designed for these circumstances. And I know, like, it's tough when we want support from certain people or certain situations, and we thought we were going to get that support and that certain people were going to last and be there with us through everything. It's a really tough part of life to see, who stays and who goes, and what stays and what goes, and what jobs stay and what doesn't. And, physically dealing with mortality, right? Losing people. And sometimes, when it comes to loss and grief, it's something you deal with every single day, and it's a constant managing and, creating how you perceive your perception, how you perceive it, and making sure that, it's a positive way, and understanding we're not going to be positive all the time. We're not going to have happy emotions all the time. That is truly part of life, when we know that we're experiencing the array of emotions. But when it becomes negative, when you're in a prolonged state of negative emotions, like, that prolonged state of confusion, resentment, anger, rage, blame, loneliness, isolation, disadvantage, when we're in that prolonged state, it's going to have negative impacts on you, on your relationships, on your perspective, everything. So physically, how you show up, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, right? So they all overlap. Everything, all aspects of endurance on those 4 levels, they all overlap. And that's why we're breaking these down every week, so we dive deeper, because it's so important when it comes to endurance as a whole, and endurance being that superpower that is accessible to you always. So endurance as a superpower, why is it a superpower? Because when you are enduring, you feel you are powerful. You are powerful in showing up. And it doesn't mean, again, that it's all happy, it's all good all the time. It means you're powerful in continuing to show up despite resistance, fatigue, exhaustion, not wanting to do it. Despite all adverse conditions, you're training yourself to keep showing up no matter what it looks like, right? I'm showing you guys this every week in the best way that I can, because I'm letting you all know, right? Like, endurance is going to look different for everyone and individually, and it's going to look different every day, every week, right? So I'm doing my best to show you that I'm keep on going, and despite having to adjust, to adapt, stick to my word, what I planned and I set out to do here, no matter what it looks like, right? So it looks different. It's not on Wednesday this week, it's on Saturday. I'm a little more tired, definitely a lot more tired, but I'm here, I'm showing up for us, because it's important. It's really important for me, it's important for you, and I know that a lot of you are getting a lot from having Fitz Health Conscious Corner around, and whether it's live or whether you're watching the replays, thank you so much for all the feedback as well, and letting me know what you're getting, and for participating in these discussions and helping to expand perspective for all of us. I really, really appreciate it, right? Because this community here, we exist because we all come together and because we all want to grow in health conscious living. So just to conclude, right, just to wrap everything up, obstacles are going to come because they're going to attempt to throw you off, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. They're going to cause challenges to challenge your capacity to endure, and it's going to also for your threshold for endurance, right? So it's going to expand your threshold to endure on all levels, no matter what obstacle comes your way. Just looking at it as, what is it here to teach me? How is it here to help me grow? Even if I have to experience the array of difficult emotions, sadness, fear, grief, confusion, sometimes we have to get a little bit lost to get found, right? So just not being afraid to divert from the path that we see, just understanding we have an impact on the way we can visualize, change perspective, and create more positive thoughts and scenarios to help us keep going, to motivate instead of demotivate, to create more clarity, to even in the unknown, to switch the energy from feeling heavy, anger, rage, and just trying to shift it into another emotion, and just understanding that it does take time. It's not always like right away, it does take a period of reflection, observation, sometimes solitude, sometimes talking about it with somebody else, a friend. Sometimes it might be, a wellness practitioner, a therapist. So just having healthy support system and outlet. So it doesn't always mean your support system is going to be a huge network of people, but even just having a support system could be one person, it could be multiple people, it can be an outlet. So just having the ability to talk with others and explore different perspectives is also really a healthy way of enduring and switching out of negative ways of enduring into positive ways of enduring. So emotional endurance, it expands your emotional threshold, and it does this in a positive way because it's increasing your ability, your capacity. It's building you rather than breaking you. So that's how you know you're emotionally enduring, when you're using these positive strategies to help you get through rather than resorting and giving into, escapism, numbness, projection, diverting, right? So actually, I've been kind of, my parents have said this to me growing up all my life, like, Emma, you got to take the bull by the horns, right? And that's a lot of, I can say that to you, right? So just passing on that wisdom, right, is like, it's true. Sometimes you really need to take the bull by the horns and have those important conversations, experience those difficult emotions, take those rest days. Some days are not a physical wellness day. It's an emotional wellness day. It's a mental wellness day that you need to take for yourself. It's for your own wellness. So understanding wellness is physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, right? And enduring all of these is, a way to continue to last, to continue to endure, to continue to persist through life. All right. So, emotional endurance, it helps you to grow in character, and it also helps your own understanding of yourself and how others function, and being relatable, and just accepting that we're all human at the end of the day, and this is how we were designed. So we work with what we have and the tools available to us, and we keep learning, and we keep living, we keep showing up. Okay, the most important thing, consistency, showing up for yourself. When we also show up for others, we're also increasing our capacity to show up for ourselves, right? So it also goes both ways. That's why I always, try to expand on the importance of accepting help and not isolating, even if that support's not coming from the places you want it to be or what you think it should look like, just wherever it's coming from, working with that, because it is there to help you, not to break you. So, emotional endurance, exploring this topic to help us grow in character and to help us all live in health conscious living lifestyle, on all aspects. So thank you. Love you too. Love you all. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you. Thank you for being here. I am going to leave the live up so you can log in, check it out. It's also going to go up on our YouTube channel. So YouTube at Fitz Health Conscious Corner. You can see all of the episodes, get caught up. We're talking about spiritual endurance in the next episode. And there will be an adjustment to next week, just giving you that heads up. It's not going to happen on Wednesday. There was something already planned, already in place, so I am going to give you more info next week on when the episode 6 is going to happen, but it will be next week. We're still going to do it, so just look out for more info. Again, thank you all so much for being here. I just have so much love and gratitude for all of you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your input, your perspective, and thank you for wanting to grow in health conscious living, because it is a choice to do that. It's easier to show up and just avoid, divert, get out, just keep dealing with things in a way that we're not dealing with things, really dealing with the root of it. So it's easier to do that, but it's more beneficial in the long term for your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, to be able to find ways to show up in those heavy emotions and deal with it in a positive way, and just, overall accepting we are all human and we're here to experience life. So in love, light, and conscious living, thank you all so much for being here. You are all so inspirational. Thank you so much. You inspire me. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Afia. Thank you all for being here. You all are pure love and light. So thank you for shining your love and light into this corner. You are all so appreciated. Have a wonderful Saturday. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Enjoying these summer days if you are out here in Ontario, Canada, and wherever you are in the world, just enjoying and showing up fully every day, and live life fully, because, tomorrow is not promised. There's no day that's promised. So use what you have, keep going, and keep being you. Keep being authentically you. Remember, there's nobody else like you. Nobody else designed the way you're designed. No one else that's gone through what you've gone through. So keep going. You have purpose. Keep following your course of action. This is your reminder, you're on the right path. Keep going. Love you all. Have a wonderful day. Mwah. See ya.